Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. Guest number 2 of the night, horse racing analyst and friend of the show, Jeff Byrnes. How are you doing on this fine Thursday evening?
I'm doing good, Madison. How are you this evening?
Good. Alrighty. So we are going to do the Belmont Stakes today, as we do every year. I can't believe we're at the Belmont already. Feels like yesterday we were doing the Kentucky Derby. We have, it looks like 9 horses in the field. Is that correct?
Yes, 9 horses are entered in the Belmont Stakes this year.
All right, so let's get going. So the one horse is Tap It Shoes. Brad Cox is the trainer. Jose Ortiz the jockey. I don't see the odds here. Oh, here we go. 20-1. Tell us about Tap It Shoes.
So Tap It Shoes, this will be the first of 3 entrants in the field for trainer Brad Cox. He's going to be drawing the rail Jose Ortiz, a former Belmont winning jockey in his own right. Brad Cox won the Belmont Stakes back in 2021 with essential quality, but Tap It Shoes, of the 3 he's entered, probably is most likely going to be the longest shot in the field, deservedly so. He does have 1 win in his career of his 5 career starts, but has slowly and gradually gotten better over his 3 starts this year. He was 4th in an allowance race on January 21st. His next start, he was 3rd in a highly competitive allowance race. And then second, he was last time out. He was second last time out in the Bathhouse Row Stakes at Oaklawn Park behind fellow Belmont Stakes runner Red Route 1, who we'll get to in a little while. But he's coming into the race in good form. He goes to a sharp 5-1 workout at Churchill Downs a couple of days ago. So this horse is sired by Tappet, who has sired 4 Belmont Stakes winners. He's a half-brother to a horse by the name of Cyberknife, who was last year's Haskell Stakes winner at Monmouth Park. So he does have a very precocious pedigree. Can he get the 1.5 miles? I think is going to be the biggest question. Obviously, he was a very late entrant into the field, so his trainer Brad Cox feels that he can get the 1.5 miles. As far as talent goes, while I do believe he has the talent to be in this field, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for him to win.
All right, the 2-horse Tap It Trace, 3-1. Luis Saez is the jockey. Do I have that last name right? Saez or Saz?
Luis Saez.
Saez. Okay, and then Todd Pletcher is the trainer here. Tell us about Tap It Trace.
So Tap It Trace, this is the first of a few Kentucky Derby entrants coming back to run in the Belmont Stakes. He before that race in the Derby, he won 4 in a row. He won the Tampa Bay Derby back on March 11th, then won the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland back on April 8th. This is a very good horse who, in the Derby, he didn't exactly run the best race of his career, even though he broke slowly coming out of the gate, and he has had a history of gate troubles in the past. He had it in the Tampa Bay Derby, even though he was able to overcome it. Same thing in the Bluegrass, where he did break a little bit better, but still wasn't the smoothest beginnings. The Kentucky Derby, basically, he was taken to the back, and he didn't really show the same exact kick that he did in his 2 previous stakes wins. But his trainer, Todd Pletcher, has basically been pointing this horse for the Belmont since the Kentucky Derby. And honestly, has probably been pointing this horse for the Belmont since the beginning of the year, because he feels like this horse has such a big gallop, has such a big stride, where he can get the 1.5 miles very easily. Just like Tap It Shoes, he's also sired by Tappet. So, and that's probably going to be a theme you're going to be hearing throughout much of this podcast, is the horses sired by Tappet or out of Tappet mares. Tap is a very, probably one of the best stamina stallions in America today. So, he's by far the most expensive horse in the field. He cost $1.3 million as a yearling at Keeneland back in September 2021. He's a very talented colt who he's going to be breaking. He does have to get out of the gate a little bit better than he did in the Derby. He's going to be towards the back of the pack. My biggest worry with him is, even though I think he's probably the best bred horse to get the 1.5 mile distance, he's not going to get a lot of pace to chase. So he's going to have to break from the gate very well. And honestly, it would not surprise me if he's up closer to the pace than he usually is, because horses that tend to be closers in the Belmont don't have a very kind history in their favor. So would not surprise me if Tap It Trace is closer to the pace. The question is, ultimately, can he be good enough to beat this field? I think it's going to be a tough call.
I think it's going to be interesting because there's a lot of good horses in this race. So your 3-horse is Arcangelo at 8-1. Javier Castellano is the jockey, and Jenna Antonucci is the trainer. Tell us about Arcangelo.
So Arcangelo, this is a newcomer to the Triple Crown Series. He did win the local prep, the Peter Pan Stakes at Belmont Park back on May 13th. He has won 2 races in a row, so he's a horse that I also believe he can get the 1.5 mile distance. He is sired by Arrowgate, who was the Breeders' Cup Classic winner back in 2016. And I think this is the horse who has gradually gotten better as his racing career has gone on. His race in the Peter Pan, he was about mid-pack. He was chasing a pretty slow pace. Made a big sweeping move around the turn, and he held off a very talented colt from the Brad Cox barn named Bishop's Bay, who could be a stakes performer in the future. But he was a very good race of his young career. His trainer, Jenna Antonucci is seeking to become the first woman trainer to win the Belmont Stakes. So perhaps some history on the line Saturday with Arcangelo. Javier Castellano, who rode Mage to win the Kentucky Derby, is going to be aboard for this mount. This is a good horse who is going to be close to the pace, I think, more than usual. The question is going to be, he's going to go from 1 1/8 to 1.5 miles, and that's a pretty steep jump in terms of distance. And he's going to be facing by far the biggest field and the biggest, most talented field of his career. So it's going to be a tall task for him to go A, the distance, and B, as far as talent goes. So I think it's going to be difficult for him to win on Saturday.
Alrighty. The 4 horses National Treasure. We've seen this horse before. 5-1 on the morning line. John Velasquez is the jockey, and of course Bob Baffert is the trainer. What are your thoughts on National Treasure here at the Belmont?
So, National Treasure, this is your Preakness winner. He did go wire to wire in the field. I remember a couple of weeks ago, Madison, I was telling you that this horse, National Treasure, was the lone speed of that Preakness field. And basically, it was almost like a merry-go-round race in the Preakness. He went to the lead. He set some slow fractions up front. He basically set a half mile at 48-4. Once you saw that time, it was pretty much over. I mean, horses closing from the back are not going to close into that slow pace. He held on gamely over Blazing Sevens to get the win in the Preakness. He does come back for the Belmont Stakes, and he has been working very, very well. He seems to have come out of the Preakness in very good form. He did put on blinkers for the Preakness, and they're going to stay on for the Belmont. And honestly, this horse I think is going to be pretty lucky because just like the Preakness, there's really no speed in this field. So it's not going to be surprising if National Treasure is A, on the lead again, B, if he sets slow fractions again, and if he does, if he gets a clean break, sets slow fractions, he's going to be there at the end, I think. Obviously, trainer Bob Baffert is very good at getting these horses to gradually get better as the distance get longer. Now, this horse is sired by Quality Road, who in turn has sired some speed and stamina horses in the past. So I don't think it's going to be a problem for him getting the 1.5 miles. The question is, A, how much did the Preakness take out of him? B, is there going to be a surprise horse that could take him on in the lead? But if National Treasure does get to the front and sets low fractions, I definitely think he's a player at the end.
Yeah, we can't rule out National Treasure doing it again. All right, so the 5 horse, is it 2 Miracolo? Is that like 2 in Roman numerals, or is it IL?
It's Il Miracolo.
Il Miracolo. Okay, I wasn't sure the pronunciation of that one. You're always better at that than I am. 30-1 on the morning line. Marcos Meneses is the jockey, and Antonio Sano is the trainer. Tell us about Il Miracolo.
So Il Miracolo, this is one of the most experienced horses in the field. And he's also one of the longest shots on the morning line in the field, and I think deservedly so. He's 30-1 on the morning line, and honestly, given the fact that it's a 9-horse field, the price will probably come down on him ultimately at the end. But he's jumping right back in the stakes competition where even though he did just win an allowance race back on May 11th at Gulfstream Park against what was a pretty subpar field compared to the field he's going to be facing on Saturday. He did compete in stakes competition in the winter time, trying to get on the road to Kentucky Derby, and basically he was not good at all. Particularly, he was 6th in the Remsen Stakes, and then off the boards in pretty much all 4 of the Gulfstream Park races. leading up to Kentucky Derby. So between the Holy Bull, Fountain of Youth, and the Florida Derby. So this horse is going to be a long shot there, definitely. Honestly, if he's probably going to be the one horse that could challenge National Treasure on the front end. He did win his last race going wire to wire, but his talent alone, I don't think he's really up for this field. It's going to be a very, very surprising result if he wins this race. Now, he could perhaps hit the board if he does stay close to the front and set slow fractions, but he's definitely up against it on Saturday.
Alrighty, the 6 horse is Forte. We know this horse because this horse was scratched from the Kentucky Derby the day of the Derby and was my pick to win the Derby and was the favorite. And now we see Forte here in the Belmont, which is awesome. He's 5-2 on the morning line. Todd Pletcher, the trainer, Erod Ortiz Jr., the jockey. What are your thoughts on Forte and Forte's chances here?
Well, just based on talent, well, just based on looks alone, Forte is without question the most talented horse running in this field on Saturday. The biggest problem I do have with Forte is obviously he was scratched the morning of the Kentucky Derby, and it's been a tumultuous 5 weeks for the connections to Forte. Between the scratch of the Derby, he's been slow to recover from the foot bruise that he had. He is back in here, and he has been working pretty well, but he's coming into this race pretty light. I mean, he's had only 3 workouts going into the Belmont Stakes. Even though his last workout was a pretty fast 5-furlong workout at Belmont Park. My biggest worry for him, though, is that he's coming in this race off of a 2-month layoff. His last run was the win of the Florida Derby, where he did beat Mage, who did come back to win the Kentucky Derby. But it's a pretty significant ask for him to go, from 1 1/8 to 1.5 miles, especially when you're competing against horses who have already been tested in the Triple Crown Series. And he's coming off of a pretty significant foot bruise. So, Forte, in my opinion, I think Forte is going to be up against it here. Now, it's good to see him back running in the Belmont Stakes. Could he win this race? I think he can. Tom Pletcher does a very good job with horses, stretching them out and getting more stamina into his horses. Now, his sire, Forte, is a horse by the name of Violence, and this horse is more known as a sprint sire than anything. He'll get the occasional stamina, speed horses out, but mainly a horse like Forte. But to me, this horse, I think it's going to be a play against on Saturday. If he wins, good for him. I mean, but I think a lot is going to be up against them on Saturday.
Alrighty, Hit Show is 10-1. Brad Cox, the trainer. Manuel Franco, the jockey. Obviously, Hit Show's the 7. And is this a horse I feel like we saw Hit Show at the Derby, right? If I'm not mistaken?
That is correct. Hit Show not only was he in the Derby, he actually finished 5th, a very close 5th in the Kentucky Derby. So Hit Show does come back. This is the 2nd of 3 for trainer Brad Cox. Jockey Manny Franco is going to be aboard him on Saturday. And his last 2 races have shown, even though they were both losses, he ran very good races in both of them. The Wood Memorial, where he was 2nd, he came from post 13, had a wide trip the whole way, and he still only finished 2nd, being a very short head. And then in the Kentucky Derby, he actually drew the 1 post, and even though he was part of that pretty brisk pace up front, he was able to hang around, and he finished a very good 5th at the end. So, this is a very good horse in Hit Show, and his pedigree to me suggests that the 1.5 miles also shouldn't be a problem with him. His sire, Kennedy Ryan, has sired stamina horses across the world, particularly here in the U.S. He is out of a Tappan mare named Actress, who is a multiple graded stakes winner in her own right. And this horse to me seems like he's been getting better and better as the year has gone on. His trainer Brad Cox has put some steady works into him where he can build up his stamina and build up his energy going into this race. I think 7 posts, he's going to get a good trip. He's probably going to be in the middle of the pack, and honestly, he's probably going to make a wide move around the far turn. But given his talent, I think it's only going to go up from here. I think Hit Show is going to be around at the end.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Hit Show has a good shot here. And another horse from the Derby, Angel of Empire, 7-2 odds. Brad Cox, the owner, and Flavian Pratt is the jockey. What do you give of Angel Empire in terms of chances in this race?
I think Angel of Empire has a very good chance. This horse right now is probably in the best form of any horse going into the Belmont Stakes. He was He actually was the very slight favorite in the Kentucky Derby. He was actually my Derby pick.
Right.
And there was a brief moment coming down the stretch where Angel of Empire looked like he was going to pass and go for the win, but ultimately settled for third. But I like the way he was finishing and coming down the stretch. His trainer, Brad Cox, basically was pointing for the Belmont almost immediately after his Derby run. I think he absolutely can get the 1.5 miles here. Flavien Prat, very good jockey, has really built good chemistry since coming aboard of Angel of Empire. It seems like with his stride and everything that 1.5 miles should definitely not be a problem for him. He did come up back-to-back stakes wins in the Risen Star and the Arkansas Derby, in which it seemed like he wasn't getting tired at all, despite even though those two races were 1.1 miles. The Kentucky Derby, 1.25 miles, he was still coming on it. He was closing, coming towards the end. So he wasn't really getting tired. His works have been really good. He's coming off back-to-back sharp 5-furlong workouts at Churchill Downs. So he's going to be ready. I think he's going to be closer to the pace than usual. Flavien Prat, I think, just has to keep him clear. And I think this horse ultimately could pull out a good one at the end.
Alrighty, and last but not least, Red Route 1, 15-1, also in the Derby. I remember this horse from the Derby. Joel Rosario is going to be the jockey here, and Steve Asmussen is the trainer. Tell us about Red Route 1, one of the longer shots on the board, actually.
Yeah, so Red Route 1, he's 15-1 on the morning line. Joel Rosario is going to be aboard him. And honestly, his price probably will be coming down a little bit. Maybe you'll see him around 10-1 or so. His last run in the Preakness Days where he chased it to a slow pace, I actually thought it was an okay fourth considering he didn't get the pace to chase. But he's a horse that seemingly he doesn't really like to win, but he does usually stick around for the end. The biggest thing that's going to be going up against him is he's a very deep closer. Honestly, he probably will be last turning up the backslide unless there's a very surprise change in strategy with him. Between Joel Rosario and Steve Atkinson, whatever game plan they come up with. So this is a very deep closer. History has not been kind to deep closers in the Belmont Stakes. So he's going to have to be close to the pace. He's going to have to somehow think he's going to get a fast pace to chase into. Even though I think he does have the pedigree to get the 1.5 miles, being my gun runner out of a tap-in there, I think this horse is definitely going to be up against it on Saturday. Even though I could see him somewhere maybe in the top five finish, but probably going to be the 4th or 5th.
Alrighty. I think this is a loaded race personally, and it's a deep race, and there's going to be some great horses that do not finish in the top 3. So let's go with the win, place, and show picks. So, Jeff, who is your winner pick right now?
So I picked him in the Kentucky Derby, and I'm going to pick him again in the Belmont Stakes. I'm going to go with Angel of Empire. I just think he's coming in very good form. I think right now his jockey Flavien Prat has got a good strategy on him. He's going to probably be close to the pace. I like the way he finished the Kentucky Derby, and I think he's going to be running a huge race on Saturday.
All right, I'm going to go with your Preakness pick of National Treasure for the win, actually. I like how National Treasure looked in the Belmont, and I think Baffert is going to have him ready to go. How about your place pick?
Well, my place pick actually is National Treasure. I do think he is going to stick around towards the end. I think because there is no pace for him to chase, or no pace up front. He's going to be the leader. I can see him setting slow fractions. My worry with him is, can he truly get the 1.5 miles? That's ultimately going to be the big question, but I think he is talented enough where he will be around at the end. So I will go with National Treasure for second.
All right, and I think for the first time this season, we have the same top 2. I'm going with Angel of Empire for my place pick. For the same reasons you mentioned for the win pick, I think Angel of Empire and National Treasure are going to be literally neck and neck. I think it's going to be a great race. And last but not least, what is your show place, or your show pick?
My show pick will be the 7 Hit Show. I think he's going to run a big race on Saturday. I really did like his race in the Kentucky Derby. From post 1, he has come off of he is 2 for 4 this year. I think the pedigree suggests 1.5 miles should be no problem. Manny Franco's done a really good job riding this horse in the past. I think he's going to get a good run around the far turn, and it should be around at the end.
I'm going to agree with you on Hit Show. So we have the same trifecta, but in a slightly different order. I'm going with Hit Show too. I like Hit Show, and I think Hit Show has the best chance of the horses that are currently double-digit odds to win the race. So I really like Hit Show, so I'm going to pick Hit Show for the show. So yeah, some good horses not in our top 4. Forte, Tappet, Trice. Like, there's some good horses that are not going to be finishing in the top 3 of this race, as I mentioned. So with this event this weekend, what are some good undercard races to watch?
So this is a very good card coming up Saturday at Belmont Park. In addition to the Belmont Stakes, you have the Grade 1 Woody Stevens for 3-year-olds going 7 furlongs. The favorite in that race is a horse by the name of General Jim for trainer Shook McGahee and ridden by Luis Saez. General Jim is coming off of a win in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile on Kentucky Derby Day at Churchill Downs. And actually, you got the 1, 2, 3 finishers out of the Pat Day Mile coming back for this race between General Jim, the 8 Fort Bragg for trainer Bob Baffert, and the 12 Gilmore for trainer Brendan Walsh. So you got the top 3 finishers in there. You also have a horse by the name of Arabian Lion, who actually won the Sir Barton Stakes on the Preakness undercard for trainer Bob Baffert. That's coming back in distance for going from a mile to 16 to 7 furlongs. He should be very tough in there. So that's a good race on the undercard. You also have the Grade 1 Metropolitan Handicap for $1 million purse, Grade 1. Very big race for the older in the older handicap division. Excuse me. The favorite in that race actually is the 1 horse Cody's Wish. This horse was the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner last year. He's coming off of arguably one of the best runs of his career in the Churchill Downs Stakes on Kentucky Derby Day. It was he's a very talented horse. You see it getting better with age. I think his biggest competition could be the number 3 horse, Dr. Scheibel, for trainer Mark Latt and ridden by Irad Ortiz Jr. He's 10-1 on the morning line, and even though he's primarily been a sprinter, I think he'll appreciate the stretch out to a mile distance. So that should be a good race to watch. And finally, you have the Manhattan Stakes, the Grade 1 going 1.25 miles on the turf. The 8-5 favorite in that race up to the mark for trainer Todd Pletcher, who since going to the grass he's been undefeated since going to the grass. And this horse, I think, really is going to get better as distance gets longer. Or I don't know, I'm sorry. He was actually 3rd in the Makers Bar Mile, but then he's coming off of a win in the Turf Classic at Churchill Downs, so he should be a good one to watch. And it's just a very, very good card coming up on Saturday.
Oh, I'm sure it is a loaded card come Saturday. Something different for the Belmont I noticed is that it's going to be Fox broadcasting the event instead of NBC. How do you feel about that? I think that's kind of weird. I like Chris Felica being on the Fox broadcast coming up this weekend, formerly of ESPN, doing all the gambling stuff, but don't you think it's a little weird that we're not going to see Larry Collmus on Saturday?
Yeah, it's a little weird. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It is a little weird. This is a brand new TV deal that Fox and I guess the New York Racing Association has come up with. So Fox will be has the broadcasting rights for the Belmont Stakes, I believe, for the next 6 to 7 years.
Wow.
So yeah, this is a brand new TV deal that just came together. You'll probably see a lot more of the Fox TV crew over at Belmont Park on Belmont Stakes Day. So I think Tom Durkin is the old NYRA track announcer is going to be calling the Belmont Stakes for the Fox network. I think they'll all do a good job though.
Yeah, I think they're going to do good too. I wanted to see your thoughts on that because I thought that was a little weird. Like I said, I like Chris Felica, and I like that they're bringing back a familiar face with the call. But it's going to be weird not hearing Larry Collmus, that's for sure. All right, a couple things before we let you go. The Yankees lose Aaron Judge over the weekend with the toe injury, obviously. I'm really worried about the team. I know they almost came back. Gleyber Torres was inches away from a walk-off home run about a half an hour ago. Wasn't meant to be. But I'm worried about this Yankee team. And I'm worried about Aaron Judge. Do you have any concern about how long it'll be before Aaron Judge comes back?
Yeah, I am worried about this team because this is primarily just as far as Aaron Judge is concerning. I mean, he did make a great play going into the wall, but unfortunately he suffered that toe injury. But right now, listen, a lot of these guys have to step up when it comes to like the Josh Donaldsons of the world, the Anthony Rizzo's of the world. Anthony Rizzo's been in a pretty big slump lately, and it's going to be right now. You need guys to step up ultimately between Gleyber Torres, as well. Giancarlo Stanton hasn't exactly looked the same since coming back off the IL. But, Anthony Volpe has been in a little bit of a slump recently. So, listen, it's going to be a long haul for these guys. And until Aaron Judge gets back, whatever that is, whether it's a couple days or a couple weeks, it's going to be a tough road for the Yankees. They just need to stay afloat. The guys need to step up and right now keep their calm. Otherwise, this could get out of hand quickly for them.
It could. Like I said, I am very, very nervous, and I know they were inches away from winning the game just about a half hour ago, but the Rays keep winning, the Orioles keep winning. I mean, if Judge is back, what was that?
And the Rays and Orioles, those are two very good teams, and the fact that they keep winning, and honestly, they've been staying healthy most of the year too. I mean, you're not really seeing a lot of their guys go down to injury. The Yankees have just been decimated with injuries throughout the season between Aaron Judge, Stanton, Donaldson. I mean, so many, and now Nestor Cortez is hurt. I mean, the rotation's also in shambles too. Luis Severino didn't look really good today. He's been really shaky his last couple starts. I mean, when are we going to see Carlos Rodon on the mound for the Yankees? I mean, we're still waiting for that. Is there a rehab assignment coming for him soon? I mean, this is getting crazy what's going on with him. But honestly, the guys just need to step up. A lot of these guys need to just step up and do what they're supposed to do. And maybe we just right the ship. But right now, it's looking pretty bleak for the Yankees.
I would have to agree with you there. And before we go, your thoughts on the NBA Finals with the Denver Nuggets being up 2-1 on the Miami Heat?
Well, right now, the Denver Nuggets look like they're in complete control. Nikola Jokic has been absolutely outstanding for the NBA Finals. I believe he's averaging close to 33 points a game so far in the NBA Finals, which is pretty insane. I believe he's got a triple. I mean, he's also averaging a triple-double in the NBA Finals, which is also amazing. Jamal Murray has stepped up in a big way. He had a good game last night. Right now, the Miami Heat just look all out of sorts. Jimmy Butler hasn't particularly been playing well. Bam Adebayo, I think, also has to do a better job on the defensive front. But particularly right now, Miami's biggest problem is Jimmy Butler. And if he doesn't get going soon, this series is going to be over in 5.
Yeah, and Jimmy Butler, low-key, hasn't been healthy since he had that ankle injury against the Knicks. Even he wasn't great against the Knicks. What got them to this point, I know Butler was good in a couple of those Boston games, but those role guys stepping up from 3, like Max Strus and Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent, those guys are the ones that have pretty much carried them to this spot. And 2 big takeaways I've had in these whole playoffs, and let's see if you agree with me or you agree with Doug on a couple of these, because I asked Doug the same questions when I had him on before you. 1, do you think Nikola Jokic is the undisputed best player in the NBA right now?
Right now, I do. I think he is the best player in the NBA because he can just about do everything. I mean, he can defend, he can shoot, he can do just about everything you ask him to do, he'll do it. He's great. He's a great 3-point shooter. He can get into the paint very good. I mean, he's going to have like a triple-double machine every single night. So, I mean, when you talk about the best players in the NBA, I think Jokic is right there at the top.
I would agree with that. And Doug actually said Giannis, but he said the best all-around player he said was Jokic, but he still would take Giannis, which I don't know if I would agree with right now. I probably would have said that a year ago, but I don't know if I'd agree with that right now. And Eric Spoelstra, despite being down 2-1 right now in the series, do you think he's the best undisputed coach in the NBA?
I think he is absolutely the best head coach in the NBA today. For him to take this team to the NBA Finals, I think truly speaks to his coaching style, the culture he has built in Miami. And, I mean, Eric Spoelstra, to me, it just feels like every year the Miami Heat always seem to find a place in the playoffs. And even no matter how far they go, they're always there. No matter how difficult their regular season can be, they somehow could just put it together and make these deep postseason runs. It seems like almost every year. So Eric Spoelstra, to me, is the best head coach in the NBA. The players love playing for him. He's built an amazing culture down in Miami. And he does have his work cut out for him over these next couple games to try to get back in the series. But if there's a guy definitely you can trust to get him back in that spot, it's definitely Eric Spoelstra.
Absolutely. I would take him in a big game over any coach right now. Although I do feel that Greg Popovich has a chance to reclaim the undisputed best coach in the NBA with Victor Wembanyama back there now, and let's see how fast they become relevant again. But it was Pop for a while, but I think Spo has kind of taken the mantle over the past couple of years here. So, and I always felt that Spo was underrated because I feel like when he coached LeBron, he was too hated. Do you agree with that? He was too kind of hated in the LeBron era in a way?
I feel like he has. I feel like he was vastly underappreciated in the LeBron era because everybody's like, the big three's there. Of course, they're going to make it to the NBA Finals every year. But at the moment LeBron James left, they just kept staying afloat. I mean, like I said, they somehow every year they're always finding their way into the playoffs and making these deep playoff runs. I think it just speaks to the character of Eric Spoelstra, and it's good to see that he's getting the respect that I think he deserves because you just look at this Miami team right now. I mean, the amount of undrafted players and the amount of players that just seemingly would be nowhere near like the top tier players in the NBA. Other than Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, but right now they're just loaded, and right now everything seems to be like going Eric Spoelstra's way. Even though they do have their work cut out for them, it's just really. I think he's absolutely underappreciated and one of the best head coaches, not only in the NBA today, but of all time.
I would agree with that as well. All right, Jeff, it was a pleasure to have you on today, and hopefully we'll get you on again for the next big horse racing event or whatever possibly could happen in the summertime with some of the other sports.
Yep, absolutely, Madison. It's always good to come on and talk with you.
All right, have a good night.